So I'm Ryan Schwinn. I was born and raised in the state of Ohio, where I grew up on a small farm, kind of a hobby farm. My dad and mom both worked full-time off the farm. Um, Grew up, went to Ohio State University for agricultural engineering. Got my degree there. Immediately after getting my degree there, I moved to Iowa here to work for Summit Farms, where I'm currently the row crop manager. Um, Summit Farms is an entity within Summit Agricultural Group, which is kind of a diversified agribusiness with operations and both some equity funds as well. So the operation side consists of our row crop operation, our cattle operation, cattle feeding operation, and then our swine operation as well. And so those three entities work pretty closely together. We don't share a whole lot of labor, but in terms of equipment and just kind of general goals and visions, we try to work together. A lot of our row crop corn production will go into our cattle operation, and kind of share some things that way. The other part of Summit Agricultural Group is an equity side where we're raising capital to invest in farmland across the Midwest, and trying to find quality farms at an economical rate and trying to get some appreciation out of those farms and returning a profit there. We also have some different investments down in Brazil that we've invested in farmland down there, as well as the ethanol business. And so Bruce, when he started Summit Farms, his history goes back quite a ways in the swine industry with Hawkeye Pork, with the company that he had started, and basically a hog integrator where the time they sold the company, I believe they were close to about 1 million hogs, where they were contracting those in several different farmer facilities around the state. And so I moved from the swine industry into the ethanol industry, built, I believe, 3 to 4 ethanol plants here in the state of Iowa. I believe that was called Hawkeye Renewables, and built a plant locally here in Iowa Falls that today we still haul a lot of corn to. Since then, he's sold off all of those ethanol plants to other companies, and kind of through all that time, he had been growing this farming operation to be what it is today. Today we operate just shy of 13,000 acres, and we're on feed. We've got about capacity for about 10,000 head of cattle, and then hog site wise, I think we're sitting around the 50 to 60 hog sites around the state of Iowa. So we've got some volume to us, and that's grown over many years. And so today, if I had to guess our total employee count, we're probably close to about 60. I don't know the exact number, but kind of half of that is half is operations, half is office staff, including accountants, and guys on our land fund side who are actually going out and seeking some of these farms, going to land fund auctions or land auctions, and basically viewing these farms and seeing what they want to buy. Yeah, that's kind of the general gist of it. My job here is to lead the row crop team. I've got 10 full-time employees that help run the row crop operation. We also hire some additional labor as on an H-2A visa from South Africa. We've got 5 guys doing that this year, so they're here from about the end of March through December 1st typically, so kind of during the growing season, and they're helping us out in machines. Then we also have an intern program where we're hiring kids from a local university and some local community colleges here, as well as an assortment of part-time employees.
Gotcha. That's great. Thank you.
Sure.
So when you think about your farm business, what are some of the big challenges that come to mind when you think about what are the issues facing your farm?
Sure. Big one for us has really been labor, and just trying to acquire and retain qualified individuals that want to be here and that want to do this work. Part of it is finding qualified labor, people that have a farming background or farming history, and that have the qualifications to operate some of this, larger machinery or work with animals, guys that know what's going on, that require, less training. But we're also willing to, kind of onboard people that need some training. But finding people that are willing to work the schedule and the hours has become a challenge. A lot of people in my generation, I'm only 24 years old, are looking for more of a, 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 type of job, and aren't willing to put in the overtime hours required and things of that nature. So labor will continue to be a struggle as we move forward, especially as we adopt more and more technology and need people who are qualified to utilize that technology. That might require, some college education or something like that to be able to handle that. So I really see that as the biggest struggle we face going forward.
Gotcha. Absolutely. In your background with farming and what you've gotten to know just working for some of the farms, largely, do you think the business model of farming is going to be relatively the same as we move forward, or is it evolving, or do you see things coming down that's going to cause the business model to change? When I say business model, I mean the normal traditional way that farming has worked of, buying inputs from certain suppliers, selling to the general market, and finding a price within that market. Just curious, is that going to continue?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think from my best understanding, I think we're going to continue to kind of see that general model for a while, but I think that technology is definitely going to play a large role in offering up opportunities to change that model a little bit as we get a lot of these, just interconnected communities of where it's opening doors to maybe share equipment, advertise your goods, kind of seeing more maybe kind of direct farm to consumer type of opportunities that are growing up based off of the needs that the consumer is saying in special or specific, food that they want produced. Might offer some more farm to consumer opportunities, as well as just opening up doors for, like I mentioned, the communication and maybe sharing of equipment, or altering how farming is done from I'm a farmer and I grow my own corn, but maybe opening up options for more custom work to be done, sharing equipment off around the country, and trying to utilize that investment more. So I think that'll take time as we get into it more, but I think there's a lot of people out there who are developing new technologies and new markets that may help change that model.
Gotcha. Along those lines, how would you say technology has changed what you've seen in the farming industry, or specifically on your farm? What has technology done?
Sure. Technology has definitely helped bring a lot of information together. We're constantly measuring a lot of things, and I think over the years, even just with yield monitors kind of coming into existence, and people having all of this yield data and not knowing what to do with it, and seeing some of these systems like Encirca and FieldView kind of come together and try and incorporate a lot of this historical data in a model, basically, to help determine nitrogen recommendations, or even other fertilizer recommendations off of those yield maps, and using weather models to predict what's going to happen and look at what's actually happened through that growing season. So I think that's going to companies will continue to refine that model, and being able to utilize a lot more of that historical data to make better management decisions every growing season. Other examples are just really looking at, I think, costs at a much finer detail, and being able to really track things independently and monitor things differently. We started using a lot of telematic data this year, and so collecting machine information like engine load, fuel usage, running time, so whether an operator is running in the field, whether he's moving, whether he's standing still because he broke down, or waiting on a truck to come so he can dump, or whatever it may be. I'm trying to utilize that information to understand how we can get better. And so we're looking trying to look for bottlenecks and things like that, okay, we shouldn't be sitting here for this long. How can we improve it? And understanding as well what that is really costing us, so we know how much machinery depreciates per hour, and trying to look at some of those impacts that those things have out in the field. And I think technology will continue in terms of a cab of a tractor, make things easier for operators, just more automation and controlling implements, controlling headers, and also just measuring the quality of what they're doing. And I know myself, I'm very excited to see what the future of autonomous vehicles brings, and just the opportunities that exist there to advance our farming operation. And I think we've got a long ways to go, obviously, in the years ahead. But there's already some interesting solutions that have been coming out, and Colin Hurd is working with Iowa State right now to do an autonomous grain cart, and having some good success there, it sounds like, and just anxious to see his product and how it hits the market, and what farmers' responses to that. And some of that might not fit perfectly for our operation, but a lot of other operations, I think there's really a good fit. And that's true for a lot of technology, is it has its place, some areas, and maybe some farmers not so much. So yeah.
Yeah, great. So my next question is about large corporations. So specifically, when you think about corporations, like just large ag businesses on the supply side, or the where you're selling your product to, they look different from around the world. From your perspective on the farm, what role do these large ag companies play in your farm? Like, do you see them positive interactions that they've had with your farm, negative interactions? How do you, when you think of the big ag companies, whether on the input or on the output side, what do you think of?
Sure, good question. I think in general, I think there's positives and negatives, as with anything. Some of the negatives I think that we have seen or expect to see are just a stifle for, I think, maybe some innovation and research, and reducing some of the competition in the marketplace, and kind of controlling more of the market share, and therefore controlling what they're researching, and what the innovations are coming forward. In terms of other benefits that we've seen, I think just kind of unifying some more products, and allowing more communication between platforms, and making things a seamless data sharing and things like that, where you can cross platforms and really get information in more places, or where you need it easier and effectively. Yeah, I think that's kind of my perspective.
Gotcha. Yeah, thanks. Just got one more question. If you could tell the public anything, what would it be?
So if I could tell the public anything, I think it would be to ask the farmer. There's a lot of misinformation going out there about how their food is raised, about things that are being used on their food, different practices, whether livestock or crops with GMOs. I would encourage people just to use platforms like Facebook or social media to really get engaged with the farming conversation and dialogue, and just to try to understand more of where we come from and what we're trying to do for the public, and just to try and really seek out answers, and not just take what maybe some marketing companies are throwing at them, or the random news article that doesn't have any cited sources or anything like that, and just really trying to get to know more of the farmer. And we as farmers have a responsibility as well to communicate our intent to the public, and let them kind of see into our lives of what we do, and how we do it. So really just to kind of create more of a conversation, and I think it's really definitely possible with all of these platforms that we have now via the internet.